Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling the whole history of humankind.
Wow.
It's a big one.
Yeah, that's ambitious.
You're looking for you want a concise overview, and you've provided Harari's Sapiens to kind of guide us through it.
Perfect source.
So we're going to try to uncover those pivotal moments and fascinating forces that really propelled Homo sapiens from, just another species to rulers of planet Earth.
Yeah, and I think what's so cool about Harari's approach to this question is how we became dominant, right? It wasn't a given.
Right.
And he really argues that our unique ability to create and believe in these, quote unquote, imagined realities, these concepts like nations and religions, played a crucial role.
It's true. And it wasn't just about our brain size or even our, tools.
Right.
It was this capacity for shared myths and beliefs that allowed us to cooperate on this massive scale.
Yeah, exactly.
And ultimately, outcompete other human species.
Outcompete them, yeah.
But let's rewind a bit first.
Yeah.
About 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens weren't alone. We shared the planet with other human species, like Neanderthals.
Yeah, and this is a point that's often missed, I think, in traditional history books.
Right.
We tend to think of human evolution as this, straight line, but it was much more complex than that.
Yeah.
For a long time, multiple human species coexisted,
Yeah.
each with their own strengths and adaptations.
It's like a real-life Lord of the Rings, these different human species vying for dominance.
Yeah.
But sapiens ultimately come out on top.
They do.
So what was it about us that made the difference?
Well, it was a combination of factors, right?
Yeah.
Larger brain size certainly played a role, as did our capacity for complex language and social cooperation.
Okay.
But the real game changer was the cognitive revolution.
Yeah.
This is the big one.
The cognitive revolution.
Yeah.
Harari talks about this as a turning point in sapiens history.
Absolutely.
Can you kind of break down what happened during this period and why it was so significant?
Sure. So around 70,000 years ago, something remarkable happened.
Okay.
There was a sudden burst in cognitive abilities that set Homo sapiens on a different trajectory from all the other human species out there.
Okay.
And we don't know exactly what triggered it.
Yeah.
Perhaps genetic mutations, perhaps environmental changes.
Right.
But the result was the emergence of complex language, abstract thought, and this ability to believe in things that don't physically exist.
Okay, I'm hooked. So tell me more about these things that don't physically exist. This is where things get really interesting with Harari's concept of imagined realities, right?
Exactly. He uses the term imagined realities to describe those things that exist in our collective imagination, but not in the material world.
Okay.
So things like God's nations, money corporations, laws.
Okay, so things we believe in but can't actually touch or see.
Right.
But how could something that isn't real in a physical sense have such a profound impact on our species?
That's the thing. Even though they only exist in our minds, these imagined realities have incredible power. They allow us to cooperate in large numbers, organize ourselves into complex societies, create shared goals and values, give us a sense of meaning and purpose, a framework for understanding the world and our place in it.
It's true. This is really making me think about how much of our lives are shaped by these imagined realities.
Absolutely.
We take them for granted, but they have this huge influence on our behavior, our choices, our entire worldview.
Yeah.
In a sense, they become real because we believe in them and act accordingly.
Exactly. Think about money, for example.
Okay.
Just pieces of paper or digits on a screen.
Right.
But we imbue it with this immense value and power because we collectively agree on its importance.
Right.
Same goes for nations' laws. Religions, they exist because we believe in them.
This is blowing my mind. So it's not just that Homo sapiens were smarter or stronger than other human species. It's that we developed this unique ability to create and believe in these shared fictions.
Exactly.
That allowed us to cooperate and dominate on a scale never seen before.
Precisely. And Harari argues that this ability to believe in imagined realities is what truly sets us apart from all other animals.
Wow. So we've got these incredible cognitive abilities. We're mastering language, creating shared myths and beliefs.
Yeah.
What happens next in the Sapiens saga?
Well, after roaming the Earth, As hunter-gatherers for thousands of years, sapiens took another monumental leap.
Okay.
They transitioned from foraging to farming,
Okay.
marking the beginning of the agricultural revolution
Right.
around 10,000 years ago.
The agricultural revolution,
Yeah.
it's a turning point we all learned about in school.
We did.
But I'm realizing now that there's so much more to it than just planting crops.
Yeah,
Harari really challenges some of the traditional narratives around this period, doesn't he?
he does. We tend to view the shift to agriculture as a sign of progress,
Yeah.
But Harari argues that it was a mixed bag,
Okay.
a Faustian bargain of sorts.
A Faustian bargain. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's true that agriculture brought a more stable food supply, larger populations, and the development of settled communities.
Right.
But it also led to longer working hours, increased dependence on specific crops, vulnerability to disease and famine, and ultimately more social hierarchy and inequality.
It's like that saying, no pain, no gain,
Exactly.
But in this case, the gain came with some pretty hefty consequences.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that this transition to agriculture wasn't a conscious choice made by all of humanity.
Yeah.
It happened gradually in different parts of the world,
Right.
driven by this complex interplay of environmental factors, population pressures, and technological innovations.
So it's fascinating to think about how this seemingly simple shift from hunting and gathering to farming
Yeah,
had such profound ripple effects on our species,
it did.
shaping everything from our diets and social structures to our relationship with the natural world.
Absolutely. It's a prime example of how historical events, even those that seem straightforward, can have these unintended consequences that play out over generations. Right? And it really sets the stage for the next major development in Harari's narrative,
Okay.
the rise of empires.
Okay. Empires.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about these vast, powerful entities that have shaped so much of human history.
For sure.
How did these massive political structures emerge, and what role did those imagined realities we discussed earlier play in their formation?
Well, empires were, in a sense, a natural progression of sapiens' growing ability to cooperate in large numbers,
Okay.
fueled by those shared myths and beliefs.
So those imagined realities weren't just abstract ideas. They
Right.
became like the building blocks of these massive political entities.
Exactly.
How so?
Well, think about it. To unite vast populations under a single ruler, you need more than just brute force.
Okay.
You need a shared sense of identity,
Right.
a common purpose, a system of beliefs and values that legitimizes the power structure. That's where those imagined realities came in.
So these shared myths and beliefs acted like a kind of social glue,
Totally.
holding these massive empires together.
Precisely take the Roman Empire, for example.
Okay.
Their success wasn't just due to military might or efficient administration.
Right.
It was also due to their ability to create this unifying cultural identity,
Yeah.
a sense of Roman citizenship that transcended geographic and ethnic boundaries.
Wow.
They fostered this shared belief in Roman law,
Mm-hmm.
Roman gods and Roman values.
It's fascinating how these shared beliefs, even if they were ultimately imagined, could have such a real and powerful impact on people's lives
Yeah.
and on the course of history.
It's a testament to the incredible power of the human imagination. And it underscores Harari's central argument. Our ability to create and believe in imagined realities is what makes us unique as a species and what has allowed us to achieve such extraordinary things, both good and bad.
Both good and bad, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible to think that these empires, these sprawling civilizations, were built on this foundation of shared beliefs and story.
It really makes you question what we consider real, right?
Yeah.
How much of our world is shaped by these intangible forces?
It's one of the most thought-provoking aspects of Harari's book.
Totally.
But empires, of course, aren't the only example. He uses the example of money.
Yeah.
He calls it the most universal and most efficient system of mutual trust ever devised.
It's fascinating because, as you mentioned earlier, money is essentially an imagined reality.
It is.
It has no intrinsic value, yet we all agree to believe in its worth.
We do, and that shared belief is what allows us to exchange goods and services, to build economies, to create wealth.
Right.
It's a system based on trust,
Right.
on a collective fiction that we all buy into.
Which makes you wonder what happens when that trust breaks down.
Yeah.
What happens when people start questioning those shared beliefs, those imagined realities that can hold our systems together?
That's a great question, and it leads us to another fascinating concept that Harari explores.
Okay.
Cognitive dissonance.
Right, cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
It's that uncomfortable feeling we get when we hold two conflicting beliefs or when our actions don't match up with our values.
But how does this, psychological phenomenon connect to the grand sweep of human history?
So imagine living in a world where everyone believes the Earth is flat.
Okay.
Then along comes evidence suggesting that it's actually round.
Right.
That creates cognitive dissonance, forcing people to either reject the new information or to reevaluate their deeply held beliefs.
So cognitive dissonance kind of pushes us to confront uncomfortable truths.
It does.
And adapt our thinking.
Yeah.
But how did this play out on a larger scale?
Well, throughout history, new discoveries, ideas, technologies have often challenged the prevailing imagined realities. And sometimes these challenges were met with resistance, even violence.
Okay.
Other times they led to profound shifts in our understanding of the world and our place in it.
This makes me think about the scientific revolution.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about new inventions and discoveries.
Right,
it was
right.
a fundamental shift in how we approach knowledge and truth.
It was before the scientific revolution. Knowledge was largely based on religious doctrines or the pronouncements of authorities.
Right.
But the scientific revolution emphasized reason, observation, and experimentation. Scientists started questioning those established norms, demanding evidence-based explanations.
And that shift had a profound impact.
It did.
It led to a whole new way of seeing the world, a way that challenged the authority of traditional institutions and paved the way for modern science and technology.
Absolutely. Think about Nicholas Copernicus,
Okay.
who dared to challenge the geocentric view of the universe, proposing instead that the Earth revolves around the sun.
Right.
Or Galilei, who used his telescope to observe the moons of Jupiter, providing further evidence for a heliocentric model. These were radical ideas that challenged the prevailing imagined realities of the time.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about the courage it took to challenge those deeply held beliefs.
A lot of courage.
These scientists were going up against not just the scientific establishment, but also the church and the political powers of the time.
Absolutely.
Talk about cognitive dissonance on a societal scale.
It's a testament to the power of human curiosity, the drive to understand the world around us, even if it means questioning everything we thought we knew. And this brings us to another turning point in Harari's narrative.
Okay.
The Anthropocene.
Right, the Anthropocene.
Yeah.
The current geological epoch defined by humanity's immense impact on the planet.
Exactly.
We've gone from being just another species to becoming a force of nature,
We have.
capable of altering the Earth's climate ecosystems, even the course of evolution.
The Anthropocene is marked by unprecedented technological advancements, population growth, and consumption.
Yeah.
It's an era of both incredible progress and immense challenges.
And those challenges can feel pretty overwhelming at times.
They can.
Climate change, biodiversity loss, inequality, political polarization,
It's a lot.
you name it. It can be hard to know where to even begin.
Right.
But I'm curious, from your perspective as an expert on history, do you see any parallels between the challenges we face today and those faced by past generations?
It's important to remember that every generation faces its own unique set of challenges, right?
Right.
But there are certainly some recurring themes throughout human history. We've always struggled with issues of power, conflict, resource scarcity, and the need to adapt to changing circumstances.
So while the specific challenges may be different, those underlying human tendencies,
Right.
competition, greed, the struggle for dominance are still at play.
Yes. In many ways, those tendencies are part of our evolutionary heritage. But I think it's also important to recognize that humans have an incredible capacity for cooperation, innovation, and problem solving.
Okay.
Throughout history, we've found ways to overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges to adapt and evolve to create new solutions.
It's like that quote from Sapiens, the real potential of Homo sapiens is to connect.
It's a powerful quote.
Perhaps that's the key to navigating the Anthropocene, finding ways to connect, to cooperate on a global scale, to transcend those old patterns of tribalism and competition.
I like that.
But it's easier said than done, right?
It's definitely a challenge, but I believe it's possible.
Okay.
Harari argues that one of the defining characteristics of Homo sapiens is our ability to create and believe in shared stories.
Right.
If we can harness that power, if we can tell new stories that inspire cooperation, sustainability, and compassion, then we have a chance of creating a better future.
That's a powerful idea, the power of storytelling to shape our future.
Yeah.
But what kinds of stories do we need to tell? What are the narratives that can help us navigate the complexities of the Anthropocene?
Well, I think we need stories that emphasize our interconnectedness, our shared humanity, our responsibility to future generations.
All right.
We need stories that celebrate diversity, that promote understanding and empathy, that inspire us to act with courage and compassion.
Stories that remind us that we're all in this together.
We are.
That the fate of humanity is inextricably linked to the fate of the planet.
Exactly. And these stories don't have to be grand narratives or epic sagas. They can be small, personal stories that connect us to each other, to the natural world, to something larger than ourselves.
I love that. It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping the future, that our individual actions, our choices, our stories can make a difference.
They can.
And that brings us back to the theme of imagined realities.
It's so cool.
The future is not predetermined. It's a story that we're writing together right now in this very moment.
Yeah.
The choices we make today will determine what kind of world we leave for future generations.
It's a powerful thought that we have the power to shape the future, to write a new chapter in the human story.
It is.
But it's also a daunting responsibility. Where do we even begin? What are some practical steps we can take to make a difference?
Well, first and foremost, I think we need to educate ourselves. The more we understand about the challenges we face, the better equipped we'll be to make informed choices.
Yeah.
Reading books like Sapiens is a great start. It's helped me to see the world in a whole new light, to understand the forces that have shaped our past and continue to shape our present. What else can we do?
Be mindful of your consumption habits. Every purchase you make is a vote for a particular system or product. Choose sustainably produced goods, reduce your waste, and consider the environmental and social impact of your lifestyle.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yeah.
It's a simple mantra, but it can make a big difference.
It can.
What about on a more personal level? How can we cultivate the kind of mindset that will help us navigate these challenging times?
Cultivate empathy and compassion.
Okay.
Try to see the world from different perspectives, to understand the experiences of others, to recognize our shared humanity.
Yeah.
These qualities are essential for building bridges, for finding common ground, for creating a more just and equitable world.
That's such an important point. In a world that often feels divided and polarized, empathy and compassion are more important than ever.
They are.
And don't underestimate the power of individual action.
Don't.
Even small changes can have a ripple effect. They can.
Volunteer in your community. Support organizations that align with your values. Use your voice to advocate for change. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to the collective effort.
Love that. It's a reminder that we're not powerless, that we can make a difference, that our choices matter.
They do. But it can be easy to get discouraged.
It can.
Especially when faced with the magnitude of the challenges we face.
Right.
What would you say to someone who's feeling overwhelmed or hopeless about the future?
Well, I would say that despair is a luxury we can't afford.
Okay.
The challenges are real, but so is our capacity for hope, for resilience, for innovation.
Yeah.
Throughout history, humans have faced darkness and despair, and yet we have always found a way to persevere, to create light, to build a better future. That's the story of our species, and it's a story that's still being written.
That's such a powerful and inspiring message. It's a reminder that we're not alone, that we're part of a larger story, a story that's been unfolding for millennia.
We are.
And while we may not be able to control all the events that shape our world,
we can choose how we respond, how we act, how we contribute to the ongoing narrative.
Exactly, and that's what makes this journey so exciting, so full of possibility. We are the inheritors of an incredible legacy, and we have the opportunity to shape the future in profound ways.
It's a humbling thought to be a part of this vast and complex tapestry of human history.
It is.
But it's also a thrilling one. It gives me hope. It inspires me to action. It makes me want to go out and write my own chapter in this incredible story.
And that's exactly the kind of energy we need to bring to the challenges of the Anthropocene. It's not about finding all the answers. It's about embracing the questions, about being curious, about being willing to experiment, to learn to grow.
It's about being brave enough to imagine a better future, and then to do everything in our power to make that vision a reality. So it's inspiring to think that even in the face of these immense challenges, we still have the power to choose our path to write a new chapter in the human story. But as you pointed out, it all starts with changing our mindset, with recognizing the power of those imagined realities and harnessing them for good. But what are some concrete examples of how we can actually do that? How do we move from these kind of abstract ideas to real-world action?
Well, one of the most important things we can do is to question those narratives that perpetuate division, fear, and scarcity.
Okay.
For example, the narrative of us versus them, which has fueled so much conflict throughout human history.
Right, that tribal instinct to kind of divide the world into in-groups and out-groups.
Exactly.
It's deeply ingrained in our psychology, but we see it playing out in so many ways today. Political polarization, nationalism, religious intolerance. It's like we're constantly looking for reasons to separate ourselves from each other.
We are.
To create these artificial boundaries.
Exactly. And those boundaries often lead to conflict, to prejudice, to a sense of otherness that prevents us from seeing our shared humanity.
Yeah.
So one of the most powerful things we can do is to challenge those narratives, to look for ways to connect, to build bridges, to recognize that we're all part of the same human family.
It's a powerful message, and it resonates with so much of what Harari writes about in Sapiens. He talks about how our ability to cooperate on a large scale is what truly sets us apart from other species.
It does.
That this ability is often undermined by our tribal instincts.
It is, and he argues that we need to find ways to transcend those instincts, to create new stories that emphasize our shared destiny, our interdependence, our collective responsibility for the planet.
So it's not about erasing our differences or pretending that conflict doesn't exist.
Right.
It's about finding ways to manage those differences constructively.
Yeah.
To engage in dialogue, to seek common ground, to build a world where diversity is celebrated rather than feared.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about changing our individual mindsets. We also need to change the systems that perpetuate these harmful narratives. The political systems, the economic systems, the media, the educational systems.
It sounds like a tall order, but if we can shift those narratives, if we can create systems that promote cooperation and sustainability, then we have a real chance at creating a better future.
Absolutely. And that's where technology can play a role.
Okay.
It's a double-edged sword, of course.
Right.
But it also has the potential to connect us in new ways, to facilitate collaboration, to spread information and awareness.
That's a good point. We often focus on the negative aspects of technology.
Me too.
Social media echo chambers information, overload the potential for misuse, but it can also be this powerful tool for positive change.
It can.
For education, for activism, for building movements.
Exactly. Think about the role that social media played in the Arab Spring, for example.
Right.
Or in mobilizing climate change, activism around the world. Technology can be a powerful amplifier for our voices, for our ideas, for our collective action.
So it's not just about changing our minds, it's about using the tools at our disposal to create change, to build a better world.
Precisely. And that brings us back to the power of those imagined realities. If we can imagine a future where humanity thrives in harmony with nature and with each other, then we can start to create that reality.
Okay.
It all starts with a vision, with a story that inspires us, that guides our actions, that gives us hope.
That's a beautiful and inspiring thought. It reminds me of that line from Sapiens, the future is never a continuation of the present. It is a new creation.
Love that quote.
We have the power to create that new creation, to write a new story, to imagine a world that's more sustainable, more compassionate.
And that's the message I hope our listeners take away from this deep dive. The challenges are real.
Yeah.
But so is our potential for greatness. The future is not predetermined. It's a story that we are writing together right now in this very moment. And it's a story that I believe can have a happy ending.
That's a hopeful thought to end on. Thank you for sharing your insights and for taking us on this incredible journey through human history.
My pleasure.
It's been an eye-opening and inspiring conversation.
Glad to hear it. And to our listeners, keep questioning, keep exploring, keep imagining a better future. Because the story of humanity is far from over and the most exciting chapters are yet to be written.
And that's a wrap on today's deep dive. We hope you enjoyed exploring the world of Sapiens with us. Until next time, keep diving deep, keep learning, and keep those imaginations firing.